guys, welcome back to another episode of the Whisky Diaries. My name is Burnett Lane, we're here at Death and Taxes, and today we're going to be talking about the 12-year-old Dalmore. The Dalmore distillery, like many other distilleries around Scotland, it has a very colourful history. Starting in the 1200, Colin Kintail saved the life of Alexander III on a hunting trip. Because of that, the Alexander III gave the Mackenzie clan the legality, or they allowed it to use as a clan symbol the 12-point stag. The reason why this is important is because later on in the 1830s, when the Dalmore distillery was actually created, 23 years later, Alexander Matheson, who was the creator of the distillery, decided to pass on the distillery, and the Mackenzie clan are the ones who took it. Now, because of this, they kept the stag, and since then that's been the symbol of the distillery. Now, the Mackenzies owned the distillery till the 70s. In the 70s, it was taken over by a Scottish distillery producer that they produced another type of whiskey that there was the black and white blend, and since then it's been owned by that. The interesting part is that around the early 2000s, a billionaire from the Philippines actually took over the black and white company, and now it's actually owned by a Philippines. This Philippines billionaire also owns a distillery that is a cognac producer as well. That is, in 2006 they won Best Cognac in the World, which is something that I didn't personally know until I started digging into it. Anyway, regardless, the Dalmore went through many things as well, like many distilleries. During the First World War and Second World War, the distillery almost went into fire. In 1917, the Navy, the English Navy took over a site next door to the distillery to make Navy mines, basically ocean mines. Around that time, one of the mines exploded and made the distillery catch on fire. Now, for the next half a decade, the Dalmore distillery sued the Navy and actually eventually won, and they rebuilt. But it was an interesting fact that the Dalmore distillery sued the Navy, and just because they were stuffing around with mines. Now, the whiskey in itself is actually a really good introductory whiskey, the 12-year-old. The distillery, they have 4 types of stills, so 3 stills of 13,000 litres and 1 still of 26,000 litres. They have very particular type of stills in which they have a flat head on the top, and also they use a very unique type of cooling system as well, like the coils that cools down the spirit are sitting outside of the still as well, which is quite unique. Now, the method of producing this whiskey is actually quite unique as well. They use different strengths from different stills, and they blend them all together into a vat, and then they put it into the barrels themselves. Now, the barrels as well is actually a quite convoluted process, because I'm assuming you know how heavy these barrels are, and moving them around like these guys do is actually quite time consuming. So for the 12 years old in particular, it gets aged in American oak for 9 years. That's just a standard American oak. I couldn't find what distillery from America they use, but I know that it's 100% American oak. After 9 years, they take half of that barrel and they put the liquid into an oloroso barrel that it comes from the Bias sherry production in Spain. So this oloroso barrel is actually a Matusalem style of oloroso, but which Matusalem means that it's always over 600 liters. So it's a bigger barrel. So now, after they left that mature, that half, for another 3 years, after that they blend it back together into a big vat, and then they produce the whiskey. Now, because of this process and the way the distillate works and all that stuff, Dalmore has a kind of like a reputation for being quite a sweet whiskey. I personally don't think so. I think that this whiskey in particular is a great way to introduce people to sherry casks and to American at the same time, because it's such a good blend that it actually works really well for both. It's 40% ABV, so it's actually really friendly for anybody that wants to drink it. As you can see on the bottle, we almost finished this one, so it's the only one that we got left. It's actually very affordable whiskey. At the moment I'm recording, this bottle doesn't go over $100. $110 Australian. But obviously things change it dramatically. So, but in general, the general rule is that this is not an unaffordable whiskey. Considering as well that there's other whiskies that are 12 years old that they go for like $300-400. I'm looking at you, Yamasaki. So anyway, so without further ado, let's just try a little bit of this bad boy, which I'm very familiar with. I had drunk a lot of it. Obviously, I just forgot to mention that the distillery is in the Highlands of Scotland. So this is it goes in par with what Highlands whiskies are known for, that are delicate, easy drinking, nice and fresh. So what you expect to have from a whiskey like this, especially since you spend so much time in American oak, is a lot of those toffee and vanilla that you get from that Quercus alba type of oak, and then after that you get like your notes of sherry. You can definitely smell the spices coming through from oloroso, that is the sherry butt or European oak as well. Now that's delicious. It's really soft in the front palate, but then as you swallow and you start connecting to your nostrils, you start noticing aromas of like apricots, dry apricots, lots of peaches actually, and also at the end you get that spiciness that you get like cloves and stuff. That is actually quite delicious. It actually has quite a long back palate, like the whiskey keeps coming back. So as I said, when you first start in the front of the tongue, it's actually quite soft. You go like, oh, this is quite bland, but then as soon as you swallow and you let it sit there for a little bit, you go like, there's more flavor coming through, more spices. It's actually quite complex for the price and for the age. So highly recommended. And it's, as I said, great entry level, especially if you don't like peaty whiskies or super complex whiskies, and something that you just want to enjoy every day. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe, and we'll see you later on. Salam Jabbar.